Let's talk about some tips for the summer. So, it's starting to get hot out, as you've noticed. The season officially began on May 15th, and it goes through July 15th. So when you think about summertime, what comes to your mind? Do you think about hanging out at the beach under the hot, bright sun? Or maybe dipping into a cold, clear, crystal swimming pool with some refreshing beverages, maybe a lassi, eating all this delicious, ripe summer fruits, maybe grilling some delicious veggies on the barbecue. Or are you going to be working in the hot sun or going for a run in the middle of the day, or just sweating your butt off at work? So hopefully these tips will make sense to you and will be easy to follow and will help keep you cool. So just a bit about what's going on in the environment. The sun is getting hot, and therefore the fire element is increasing, right? Those temperatures are rising. Also, the wind is kicking up, so that air element is also increasing. Okay, so the fire and the air are both leading to dryness. So you'll see the landscape start to go golden. That's why they call this the golden state, is actually those grasses that get so gold. And as the moisture evaporates with the heat in the air, we finally end up with this dry, parched earth. And that's not just happening outside, that's happening within us too. Hopefully not getting this bad. So what is happening inside us is that these changes are also happening to our doshas. So these are the three doshas, and they're each made up of two elements. So Vata is made up of ether and air, and so as the air is increasing during the summer, Vata itself, this force, is increasing. And with Pitta is fire and water, and that fire element is increasing. So in summer, Pitta is increasing. So the Kapha element is water and earth. And since we're having all that evaporation, our Kapha is actually decreasing. And as Jude spoke about in the spring tips, in spring Kapha is increasing, and that's where you get all that congestion. But now we're seeing that this Kapha is drying out. So things that you probably understand, that yes, there is a loss of fluids happening. What you might not understand is that your strength is also decreasing during the summer. So there's specific behaviors that we should take into account during the summer. And the other thing is that because your body is hot, your digestive fire is actually coming to the outside of your body, right? Like you feel hot, right? And that's because it's trying to throw off that heat and keep you cool. So where does that fire come from? It comes from that digestive fire. So now you don't have digestive fire, not as much as you have in the other seasons. So you need to take that into account when you're planning your diet and when you're taking care of your appetite and metabolism. So how do we balance these forces that are changing in the summertime? So what we really need is replenishment, rejuvenation, and restoration. Oh, that sounds pretty juicy. And we're going to do that with food and lifestyle recommendations. So why should we do this? What's going to happen if we don't? Well, there's a whole lot of symptoms that might happen if these doshas get too far out of balance. Dehydration, sunstroke, heat rash, skin disorders, nosebleeds, burning sensations, maybe burning sensation with urination, muscle cramps, fatigue, achiness, irritability, and then the dryness can cause constipation and other things. So if these imbalances keep going, then they lead to diseases. So these are kind of minor things that can kind of be taken care of just by, reorienting yourself with respect to your doshas. So now we know why. So next we know how. So I'm going to start with the dietary recommendations. So what we really want to go for here is moist. So this is not the season for dry crackers. Sweet, cooling, slightly unctuous, because that's going to counteract that lack of moisture. Nourishing. So we want to choose things that are going to have a lot of nutrition for us, but we also want it to be light, and we want it to be easily digested. And let me tell you some more about that. So what we can do is take in more liquids and less solid food. So you might want to make your dal a little soupier this time of year. Or you can do some coconut water, which will be very nourishing and refreshing, sweet lime water, or mango juice as examples. So I think we all understand that the health experts in Western medicine say drink water, especially more water in the summer and more if you exert yourself. But yes, your body's going to need some more water, but it's important not to be chugging down the amounts of water that we're being told to do. And because water must be digested too, it goes through the same process that your food goes through. And so when your Agni, your digestive fire, is lower, your body can't handle that much water. So you would want to drink water that has been boiled and then brought back down to room temperature, and that actually imparts a lightness to the water. I remember in our first class, in the 2-month course, we were given regular water from the tap and then water that had been boiled and cooled, and you can feel the difference. It's really pretty amazing. And you want to sip and allow this water to digest. So the sweet taste is encouraged in this season, but this doesn't mean pies, cakes, cookies, ice cream. The reason for sweet taste is that as the foodstuffs get drier, they become more bitter, astringent, and pungent, and those are going to actually add more air to you. So how you counteract those are the other tastes, which are of sweet is one. Sour and salty are the other tastes that will combat these, but both the sour and the salty have fire in them, so you don't want to add more fire. So sweet is your best option for this season, and sweet foods will be more nourishing also. So here's some example, so Ayurveda considers sweet foods as milk, rice, and wheat, and as an example of vegetables, squashes. And you also should be cooking your vegetables in a little ghee in moderation. You don't want it to become too heavy, but the ghee will be very unctuous and will help with the dryness. And Ayurveda does not really recommend salads because raw vegetables are harder to digest, and they also add more air elements. So if you want to have a salad, you should maybe avoid harder vegetables, ones that will be harder to digest if not cooked, like big chunks of carrots you wouldn't want in a salad. And if you're going to have a salad, make sure you put some oil in it, because that'll help.
Is it okay to ask a question?
A brief one.
What kind of oil?
Probably for salads, it would be safflower or sunflower. Those are the ones that are more recommended. I know everybody loves olive oil, but my understanding is that although olive oil wouldn't be mentioned in the ancient texts, it's thought to be drying because it's so astringent. So it wouldn't be a good oil for this season. And I'm not okay? Okay. Okay, so here's the don'ts list. Red meat, very heavy, not good for the summer. Alcohol, very heating and very drying. So reduce or avoid. These two you should pretty much try and take out of your diet for at least these 2 months. Papaya is very heating. May not have known that. Pineapple. Watermelon, of course, we all think of summer and watermelon and how cool and refreshing it is. But, you know, I've been noticing what happens to my body more now that I know the properties of these foods. And I myself find that watermelon gives me really bad stomach upset. And it actually will aggravate all 3 doshas, and it tends to promote a lot of gassiness. So we recommend avoiding watermelon, but you can try it yourself and see. Tomato, you know, we all love to cook with tomatoes in the summertime, but they're very, you know, acidic, and will increase the fire. Eggplant, another heating vegetable. Garlic. So garlic is so good for you because it's also a rasayana, which is a rejuvenator. But in the summertime, you wouldn't want to eat it raw. It would be too pungent. So you would want to cook it in ghee first. Peanuts are very heating. Pickles and fermented foods, best to avoid if you can. And other pungent foods. Chilies being the main one, and Ayurveda doesn't really recommend chilies very much anyway because it's just so strong. It's bound to like knock your pitta off balance. But especially in the summertime, you should really be avoiding it. Other pungent foods to avoid are onions and mustard oil. Onions you can cook in ghee and make them sweet, so then they'll be okay. And white onion might be a little milder than red, so that would be the best choice for the summer. So here's the do's. So for cereal, wheat, oats, rice, and corn are good for summer. Mung, of course, is good for every season, but specifically when you want light food, mung is so easy to digest. Dairy, ghee, milk, sweet butter, and yogurt with sugar is actually recommended. And yogurt is typically thought to be very heavy, so you should probably eat pretty sparingly, but this would be nourishing and cooling. Of the fruits, mangoes, pomegranates, dates, coconuts, and we've heard already that coconuts are very cooling in the summertime. Stone fruits, nectarines, plums, raisins are, you know, nice and sweet. Melons, honeydew, and cantaloupe, they're juicy and sweet. And limes, but lemons are a little too fiery for this time of year. And you don't want any sour fruits or unripe fruits. You really want to stick with ripe and sweet. And you want to eat your fruits as a separate meal. I think this was explained to me is that your body gets ready to digest a fruit and it needs different things than it needs to digest other things. So it's really best to have them on their own. So for vegetables, cucumbers, of course, are cooling and juicy. Beets, carrots, summer squash, Oppo, which is kind of a staple Tridoshic Sattvic food in the Ayurvedic kitchen. And we're going to do a demo of Oppo squash today. Also, green beans, okra, gourd, some that you can find in the Indian store, especially snake gourd and wax gourd, as well as cauliflower and sweet potato. So the herbs best for summertime are cilantro, cumin, fennel, coriander, which are the seeds from the cilantro plant, mint, cardamom, and you should be using less salt because salt is so fiery, but rock salt would actually be the best salt. And I'm going to plug our store because we have already made for you a summer seasoning mix. It smells really good. Should we pass it around so people can smell it? And the shop would be open after we're done. So here's some special products that you might want to, venture out to an Indian store to look for. Amalaki, which is the Indian gooseberry. Amalaki juice would be really good this time of year, or there is this, the amalaki packed in syrup that you can get called maraba, and that's what it looks like. Kokum juice. Has anybody heard of that? Mangosteen. You've heard of it, yeah. So you might find mangosteen juice. I think I've seen this dried stuff in Trader Joe's, but I don't think you want dried fruit this time of year. And roses. Roses are very cooling. Even though they weren't in the ancient texts, they were quickly adopted by Ayurveda once it was known of their cooling properties. So you can have rose as gulkand, which is a rose petal jam with sugar in it, or as a rose sherbet, which is a juice made by steeping rose petals in water. And you might even want to put it under the moonlight. And it's really delicious. And also the rose refresher, which we have available for the store, which is some seeds, some spices, and also rose petal. And we're going to be having samples. Oh, you'll get a chance to taste this, and it's really delicious. And it contains the cooling rose as well as other cooling spices. Okay, now on to lifestyle recommendations. And I think you're going to like these because the rule for summer is take it easy. This is the time to really slow down and rest. You want to reduce any heavy exertion lest you end up like this guy. You want to avoid excessive exposure to the sun because you don't want to heat up so much. And you really want to take it easy on intimate activities because they're very depleting and it's not a good time to have sex very often. And daytime napping is allowed in summertime, and it is the only time that it is allowed. And when we're talking about daytime nappings, we're not talking about laying down, we're talking about lying recumbently so that you won't disturb your doshas. But that, napping will add a little bit of kapha to you. But daytime napping in other seasons is very disturbing. And I think everybody knows somebody who swears by their naps, right? So you'll be interested to know that I ran across an article that made quite a bit of news in February. There was a study done showing that splitting up a large population into those that napped and those that didn't, and those that napped, and they followed them, I think, for like 13 years, and those that were regular nappers, more of them died in the course of the study. So it's just pointing, I'm not saying that it leads straight to death, but it's just pointing that it might be harmful. And I love when Ayurveda recommendations are confirmed by Western medicine. Not that we need them to be confirmed in order to know that they work and that they're true, but we're like, go Ayurveda, they've been making that recommendation for a long time. Okay, so if you need a nap, you can take a little nap in summertime, especially if you're old or very young or very weak. But you also don't want to do it right before, not right after eating. Leave about 2 to 3 hours after eating. So you really want to avoid depleting yourself because your strength is lower and you want to avoid overheating. So here are some lifestyle recommendations to keep you cool. When you exercise, and of course we recommend daily exercise, even just a simple walk, you want to do that in the early morning and not in the heat of the day. Now we know better, right? We see people running in the middle of the day going, oh no, not good. So another recommendation is that you have, take care of yourself with a daily self-massage with oil. So you can use sesame oil, which is a year-round tree doshik. In the summertime, if you're particularly a warm person, you might want to start switching up to coconut oil, which might be more cooling. Or you can also use a combination of both. I think we did that on our retreat, and I'd never had the combination. It was really nice. And here's another lovely tip is using cooling fragrances with flowers. So you can apply them as a paste, and you sometimes see this in desert countries. They have a paste of, the first one that I'm going to mention is sandalwood, and they put it on their face to keep themselves cool. You can also make a drink with them, or you can simply just do a tilak of sandalwood. That'll help keep you cool. Another cooling flower is jasmine. Rose, of course, we talked about before. Vetiver, which is also known as a grass called couscous. And our our friend, the plant specialist, Richard, he actually grows some of this. So if you wanted to buy some, he's actually at the Lake and Grand Farmers Market on Saturdays. And I saw some couscous grass there. So your face might be taking a beating with the sun and the dryness too, and so we recommend facial care to reduce the redness and cooling. And one that was recommended is this Masoor Dal face mask. So you take these lentils and grind them up and make a paste of them with saffron and milk. And that might actually be one to recommend for somebody with acne. Might be.
It might depend on what kind of acne they have. Yeah, the saffron may be a little hot for them.
Okay. And another great product to use on your face in the summertime is our Santulan Calming Facial Oil. It's a base of coconut oil with cooling herbs, including rose petals and licorice. And I personally know that this has been cooking on the stove of Aparna, being chanted to, and with the Devi there, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful product, and it's available in the shop. And so it's okay to sweat. In fact, as one of our teachers, Dr. Mangarji, said, when you sit inside an air conditioning all the time, you are missing out on a big opportunity to detox. And that you really should be getting a healthy glow during this, within reason. And finally, let's all do a moon dance. The moon is your friend in summertime. That luscious orb that gives light without giving heat. So moon is known as the rejuvenator. So the sun takes our fluid and our strength, but the moon restores us. And there's an essence called somarasa that the moon gives us. So it benefits our body, cools our emotions and our minds, which can get disrupted from the hot sun. and it gives what Shuniji calls cosmic juiciness. So some things you can do are to lay out under the moon and especially expose your water and other drinks to the moonlight. Like that rose sherbet in the moonlight would be, a really awesome cooling drink. And also to nap under the stars. So just to summarize, self-care equals self-love, and with these recommendations we can step into a more conscious relationship with nature and go more with the flow instead of fighting against nature, and hopefully we can have a happy and cool summer. Okay, thank you.